Hello, this is Igor Stenmark at MGI Research. We are at the 2021 Monetize Forum. The pandemic has presented numerous challenges to companies of all sizes. How companies managed through this crisis has significantly impacted their survival and prosperity during and post-pandemic. Our next session is Monetization during Crisis Management, Lessons Learned. And this session will present a case study of how a global electronics firm, Garmin International, proactively managed monetization during the crisis. Our guest speaker for this case study is Ms. Sarah Kramlich, who is the location executive for one of Garmin's global divisions. Sarah was actually directly involved in devising and orchestrating many of the strategies that Garmin deployed, and she was also instrumental in building out the underlying monetization technology and finance platform. Prior to joining Garmin in 2016, this happened through an acquisition of a navigation technology company called Delorme. Sarah spent over 20 years at Delorme as VP of Finance and Operations and Treasurer, and as an accounting professional at the grocery retail giant SuperValu stores. Sarah holds a degree in accounting from Sovereign Maine University. Sarah, delighted to have you here. Welcome to Monetize Forum 2021. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. I am honored to be invited.
Thanks for being here. So to begin, Garmin is a pretty well-known global brand, but I'm sure there may be some in our audience today that really don't know much about the Garmin product and company. And can you maybe start us with a brief introduction?
Sure. So Garmin is a 30-year-old company. They operate in primarily 5 segments: aviation, marine, automotive, outdoor, and fitness, and develop all kinds of products and services that cater to those 5 segments. Globally, we have over 60 locations around the world and 30 locations in the US alone.
Great. And just to say that quite a few of us here at MGI are big fans of your products and avid users and subscribers. So Garmin was originally largely a hardware company. And you and I discussed monetization at Garmin at one point, and you described kind of this transformation of the core quote to cash function that took place when Garmin leveraged the capabilities it acquired of Delorme. Can you describe some of the challenges that Garmin faced and what was ultimately the approach that you took? What was your experience and what fundamental outcomes were enabled by this change?
Sure. So like I said before, Garmin is a little over a 30-year company and primarily a hardware company or a device company. They had some services sprinkled in, but mostly it was hardware, tangible consumer goods for the most part. In 2011, Delorme developed the inReach technology, and along with that came a subscription-based service that goes along with the inReach. The inReach is a two-way satellite communication device that a subscriber would use, and in order to use the device to communicate, you have to subscribe to its service. Garmin purchased Delorme in 2016, and when that happened, Garmin gained not only the inReach technology, but they also gained a subscription billing platform that Delorme had worked to develop with a couple of third-party vendors during the early time of when we established the inReach service. And what that did when Garmin purchased Delorme and started to integrate that capability within its IT platform is you develop an ongoing relationship with a subscriber. When you sell devices on a one-off type subscription type of purchase, it's a one-time purchase, and hopefully you develop something else that the consumer will come back and purchase. But with a subscription, you have a monthly relationship with that subscriber, and it's an ongoing relationship that needs to be nurtured and grown. And that's one of the fundamental shifts that Garmin has made since they purchased Alarm, was to move into that ongoing relationship management and maturation as a company, to be honest with you, to support the things that need to be in place in order to make that happen.
Got it. Got it. So Garmin came in 2016, acquired Delorme. You guys already had done some initial work on building your subscription platform. So they acquired both a product company as well as this core capability.
Mm-hmm.
And so where is Garmin now in terms of kind of a more global adoption of subscription and usage-based pricing models? And what do you expect might happen in the future in this area for Garmin?
So originally, when Garmin purchased Delorme, we mostly centered our sales of services in the United States. We built out that platform to handle all of our global business for InReach using our current platform. I think what Garmin has come to see is how well that process can go, and I think you will continue to see Garmin leverage that core capability across many products as it makes sense for the customer and for Garmin to do that in geographies where that sort of business is allowed.
Right, right. When you look at sort of a Garmin, kind of a structure of a company, Garmin, as I understand it, they sell both through a channel as well as direct to a consumer. So you have a mix of the various business models. How does that work with a subscription business, with a usage-based business? How are you guys handling monetization of something like that, going through all the diverse set of channels that you guys have?
Sure. So like you stated, Garmin has lots of different channels to sell its goods, and we sell it through distributors and dealers and on the web and through OEMs, lots of different models globally. And what we really have worked hard to do was, sure, we're going to continue to leverage all of those great partners we have around the globe to sell our hardware. But when it comes to selling the service and managing the customer and customer relationship for that service, we're going to bring them back to Garmin. And so we have an online website, and actually multiple websites, where we manage that relationship from activation all the way through the subscriber journey, as they manage their plan, as they update their payment methods, as they look at their invoices, as they get marketing messages from us. We want them to come back to Garmin every time and control that relationship. In some geographies or in some particular niche markets, we do allow some of our resellers to control that relationship, but for the most part, we want to do that with the customer directly.
Right. So it sounds like you guys provide the subscription management essentially as a service.
Yes.
Back into your channel, and then you actually then manage that platform for most of them, not all of them, but for most of them.
Most of them.
And in some cases we do it. Do you also do business with OEMs, and how does that work? Do we also manage themselves, or you guys manage it for them?
It's the same thing. There are probably a couple other steps when you're dealing with OEMs, because OEMs are going to want to make sure that that service works for the customer before the customer gets the end product. So we allow that. We have some functionality that allows them to essentially set up a demo type of an account with our system to make sure that it works as expected, as that OEM would expect it to work for the customer before it gets delivered. And then once it gets delivered with the customer, to the customer, that customer then would come back to us and activate their own account for that device.
Right. So you can still maintain the direct-to-consumer relationship, which is pretty valuable.
Yep,
That's great.
Really important to us.
Yeah, and get all the data. when a pandemic hit
Mhm.
and crisis hit, we've seen lots of companies obviously concerned about things like collections, DSO going up, revenue leakage, payments not going through. How did all that affect Garmin from your sort of point of view? What are some of the challenges that you guys had to encountered, and how did you deal with that? You already had a monetization platform in place. How did that help you to cope with this environment?
Yeah, that's a great question. So last March, when essentially the United States really got affected by COVID-19, a lot of us went home to work. And it vastly affected not only our associates, but our consumers and customers in ways we hadn't even imagined. And at that point, we really didn't understand what the virus was and how it was going to affect people long term. And so we started to think about how is that going to affect our subscription customers. And so we decided to get out ahead of it really early and take a bet that it was really, really important for our subscribers to feel cared for. It was important for us to try to anticipate our subscribers' needs, whether it be financially or whether it was just their state of mind. And we wanted to get in front of that really early. So one of the things that we did is we do have some of our subscription plans require a customer to get into a contract with Garmin, essentially, that they will pay for the monthly service for a certain amount of time, usually a year. And one of the things that we did was tell our subscribers that, listen, we understand we're all going through a really tough time. We understand that you may want to cancel your service. So what we are willing to do is we would love to keep you on as a subscriber. So we would like to offer you the ability to move into a month by month plan that you can cancel at any time without penalty. And we will waive your contract remainder fee that essentially you'd get charged if you canceled early inside of contract period. And we will waive those fees, and we'll allow you to go into suspend, which is no charge, or we'll allow you to cancel completely without paying a fee, because we're in unprecedented times. And it was really important that our subscribers felt like we were all in this together, because we were truly in this together. And it felt like the right thing to do by our subscribers. And it was a very successful strategy. As we retained most of our subscribers by doing that. And they have continued to come back on regular paid plans and continue to use our service over the remaining months up until now, actually. The other thing that we did was we communicated a lot to our subscribers about why it made sense for them to continue to use our service, why they might need it when they go outside on the trail, and whatever activity they were able to do during this really, really tough time around the pandemic. And so what we really call it is really intentional support, and really cared for our subscribers and made them feel like I said, we're in this with them together. We're in this with them, and we'll get through this together. And that seemed to resound very well with our customers, and really I built loyalty, honestly.
Yeah, I can imagine. How long did it take you guys to put together this plan and kind of put it into action? So here we are in March.
Yep.
North America gets hit with COVID. How long before you kind of said, okay, we need to have a different plan. We need to be creative here, to a point of when it's actually implemented and up and running?
We did it within a matter of days. We did it in less than a week. So it was one of those things where if a customer came to our website and initiated a cancel, we would pop up messaging that I just described. If a customer called into our billing center and asked them to our contact center and asked them to cancel, it was a script that the billing team had. So it was all, we just got it all connected within a couple of days and executed it. And that plan lasted through the month of March all the way through the middle of June, when it didn't seem like we needed to do this anymore, when a lot of the geographies opened up in terms of people being able to go outside and use our device and those types of things. But the goodwill and the customer comments we got were amazing, and very favorable.
Yeah, no, I can imagine it's certainly in the category of free prize inside, and as a customer myself, I can attest to that. And I imagine to do all that what you did in terms of being able to devise a strategy, react quickly, sounds like you tied this all together into a customer service, customer experience. So that requires a platform that really works and is agile and can react in less than geological time to changing conditions.
Very much so.
Yeah. Okay. Sort of expanding on kind of what else happened in a pandemic. I mean, you guys have a fairly large global workforce. What have you guys learned as a company? What kind of lessons learned in terms of managing a crisis like that, in terms of how it affects your workforce, and what are some of the practices that you've put into place, and what do you think survives past the pandemic?
Sure. So I think we learned that we can do things remotely that we never knew how to do before. I think that is a pretty resounding concept that most global companies at this point have learned. I think we have figured out also, though, what makes sense to do in person. And I think that long-term companies like Garmin, other companies, are going to be, hopefully, take advantage of the best of both worlds. So what are the things that we can do for our associates in terms of flexible scheduling, of allowing them to work remotely, and doing certain roles, right? Not every role can do to work remotely, but certain roles certainly can. And what activities make sense to do remotely, but also make sure that we have very intentional gathering places where associates can exchange ideas and work through designs of new products, and really the entrepreneurship and the creativity, I think, comes from people coming together. And you can't always do that over video. I think we're going to try to continue to do that, but I think to the degree we can come together in ways and places that it makes sense, I think you'll see that happen. And I think you're going to see that happen for most companies. I think if we can get the best of both worlds out of this pandemic and have the tools and technology and collaboration tools to allow us to do that as effectively as possible, I think that's great. But I really don't think long term, people are going to want to be completely separate all of the time. And
Agreed.
I think that's going to be important.
Yeah, and we see it with our companies too. Everybody's talking about adopting some sort of a flexible hybrid model
Hybrid. Yep.
for go forward, so that on one hand it gives people opportunity to be physically located where they want, but on the other hand also gives them an option to get together with colleagues, because the social aspect is still very important.
So important. Yeah.
Everybody's so fed up. What is one thing that consumers and business in general should know about Garmin but they don't? What's your secret?
So Garmin, the name Garmin came from the two founders, the first names of the two founders, Gary Burrell and Dr. Min Kao. So people might not realize that. But I think the thing about Garmin is the vision of those two leaders to know is that we strive to develop the most compelling products that we have with superior quality, and the best value for customers. And I think that is the important thing to know about Garmin.
Great. I never knew that. This is fascinating. Sarah, thank you very much for joining us here at Monetize Forum 2021. I hope you have a great rest of the conference.
Thank you so much.
Have a great year. Thank you. Bye-bye.